Welcome into this week's Degrees of Science. You know, we all enjoy getting to take a walk out in the park and relax, but did you know there's research that shows that spending more time in parks and green spaces is essential for health and well-being? Today we're talking with Dr. Laura Payne, a professor and the director of the Office of Recreation and Parks and Resources at the University of Illinois. So, Dr. Payne, what kind of health benefits can we see by spending more time in parks and green spaces?
Thanks for asking that, Brady. First, I want to say that one of the things that parks and green spaces allow for is that they are low cost, they are accessible, and they offer a variety of activities that appeal to interests that people have across the spectrum. So that paves the way for people to experience a variety of different health benefits. There's physical, mental, social, and cognitive, and environmental health benefits. For example, parks promote physical activity. We know from research that even 5 or 10 minutes, multiple times a day, across multiple days of the week, is providing health benefits to you. The other things that parks and green spaces do is they improve your immune function. They lower people's blood pressure and their pulse. It also decreases cortisol, which is that stress hormone that can really affect our well-being. There are so many social benefits. One of the most important ones is helping people to alleviate social isolation and loneliness. In fact, a couple of years ago, the Surgeon General declared social isolation and loneliness as a public health emergency. So even if you go to a park and you're not, interacting or talking with the people around you, you're still in the company of other people. And that can alleviate the feeling of social isolation and also the feelings of loneliness.
So a lot of that really said, hey, you need to get outside and doing stuff. What are some actionable ways that people could take to get out the door and get involved in doing more things?
I think one of the most important things is that people need to find activities or experiences that they enjoy. The purpose and the meaning of the activity is the thing that's going to keep them interested and keep them doing it. Obviously, the more regular and routine visiting parks and having outdoor experiences is, the more the health benefits are amplified, right? So, but from a practical standpoint, you can get outside just for like little bite-sized periods of time. It could be a few minutes to like 10, 15 minutes. It doesn't have to be sort of like an event that you go to a destination park. And I think that's really important for people to think kind of, what's the low-hanging fruit here? How can we just kind of take what's right around us and, make the most of it?
So is there a certain design or kind of aspects of these parks and green spaces that would be more helpful and beneficial to people?
It sort of depends on the fabric of your community. So when we are thinking about siting and planning improvements to parks, for example, it's really important to have public input because people have different preferences. Some people like a more manicured area in a park, and some people like that feeling of being away, being able to kind of dip into a forest, or they like a blue space like a creek or a pond. And we need to keep in mind all those user needs in order to, make the park a good experience for everyone.
So you've done some research on kind of health of older adults with chronic conditions, and then kind of the role that parks and recreation agencies have in that. And kind of how big of an impact can that have for your older generation to be outside and be involved more in these parks?
Well, it's huge because if you think about it, many chronic health conditions are preventable through practicing healthy lifestyle behaviors. Okay, so I'm talking about things like type 2 diabetes, osteoarthritis, osteoporosis, because the number one pathway to increase bone building is weight-bearing activity, and walking is a great one. So it's huge, and it's also about being around people. Like I said, social isolation and loneliness is a factor. There are a lot of people who are moving into, from their residence into more of a supportive living situation. If you look at how those communities are built these days, there's a lot of emphasis on gardens and green space and greenery and windows. And even the place that my mother moved into, they had small units that had small patios, and you could care for plants and flowers if you wanted to. And there's gardening programs. And a lot of these places are being built adjacent to parks and green space. So it's all about staying engaged and having interest and having purpose, and in order to, have life have meaning and quality of life.
Well, it's all very interesting stuff that you've done research and telling us about. So Dr. Payne, I really appreciate you taking the time to talk with us.
You're welcome. Thanks for having me, Brady.